Okay, today is, what is today? Today is the December the 11th. So we want to call to order the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board of Directors meeting. And so Raymond, if you would call roll.
Good morning, Raymond Theus, Executive Director. I've got 9:14 for the record. I'll do a quick roll call. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Bird?
Here.
Ms. Enriquez?
Here.
And Ms. Masters.
Here.
So we do have a quorum.
Okay, are there any public comments registered?
None received.
All right, so today we've got something new before us. Item number 2 for adoption of the minutes for the board meeting of November 13th. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review, and if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve. If not, let's put the questions out.
I'll move to approve. This is Leah.
I'll second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion is adopted. Okay, item number 3. The show is yours, a presentation and overview of the new entity known as the El Paso Transportation Authority. This ought to be good. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Javier Bañales. I am the interim director of the El Paso Transportation Authority. And this is an entity that was created within the last year by action of a commissioner's court. And it has been established and is now in its first year. A lot of the functions that are being performed are the same functions that the El Paso County Transportation Services were providing. But the responsibility has changed to El Paso Transportation Authority. And if we can go to the first slide. Next slide would be fine. Yes, of course, our mission is very basic. In essence, we're saying that the mission is to deliver regional modal transportation solutions for the residents of El Paso County. Historically, there has always been an interest in providing a more robust means of transportation for individuals within El Paso County, not just within the city, but within the city and the county. And so on the next slide, you'll see the board of directors, which is made up of the county commissioner, who is the chair. This is Commissioner Leon. His term of office is ending this month, and so the commissioner's court will be appointing a new commissioner to be the chairperson. The board of directors, per the bylaws, contains a member of each of the entities that are officially members of ETA, El Paso Transportation Authority. And so it includes the city of San Elizario, town of Anthony, village of Vinton, town of Horizon City, and the town of Clint. Additionally, a senior member of the county administration is a member of the board, and in this case, it's Mr. Landeros, who is the other board member. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little bit of a background before proceeding further, as I mentioned, transportation has always been an important component in any city, in any metropolitan area. And of course, there's different variations depending on the location, the city, the size, geography, et cetera. In El Paso, 30 years ago, here in El Paso, the MPO and the county of El Paso were involved in doing a comprehensive study. Some of you may recall, they came in, they contracted with a consulting firm that came in and produced a plan for the city and county of El Paso. And this is the report dated September 1994, El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization. It went through the same process that we're all familiar with, making community presentations, going to the different entities within the county to present the needs and to find out what the needs were from the citizens within the county. The report here, as indicates, recommended that there be one unified transit system within the county. There were other recommendations, but this is, of course, the main one. It did not happen. That particular plan called for having a half-cent sales tax be allocated to this new authority to initiate and to implement the county-wide transportation system. That portion did not pass, but other recommendations that were included have come into fruition over the years. One of the recommendations was to expand the county transit system. At the time, there were only about 3 routes serving the county from El Paso, operating in the Anthony, up to Anthony, pretty much along Donovan Drive, and then in East El Paso, up to Horizon City, and also down to Fabens in that area. So one of the recommendations was to expand those areas. And the other one was to look at future possibilities of providing paratransit services. Paratransit services is transportation services for persons with a disability who cannot access a vehicle, like, you know, just getting on board themselves, as well as other options such as demand response by anybody that calls for transportation, of course, meeting certain criteria. Next slide, please. So those were some of the recommendations. During the next 10-year period between 2005 to 2015, these are some of the things that happened. There was an increase in the routes that the county was providing. It increased to about 5 or 6 routes. Today, we have about 7 routes that operate within the county. Some of those have been an offshoot of one of those routes. For example, Horizon City. It grew so much that from Horizon City, there was an expansion made, so that route became 2 routes. And so at the time also, federal funding was available nationwide for things to clean up the air, to reduce congestion in the freeways. And so there was some federal funds available, and the county was very active in seeking some of those funds. Through those funds, it developed a van pool program, and I'll comment about that a little bit later on, here in El Paso County. There was a gold route, as it's called, created, that takes individuals from El Paso to Las Cruces, and from Las Cruces back to El Paso with one stop in Anthony during some of the routes, during some of the dates, I mean. But it doesn't always stop in Anthony, depending on the time of day. And you'd be surprised how many individuals live and work in El Paso or in Las Cruces and commute back and forth every day. This particular route, the Gold Route, has been in existence now for about 9 or 10 years. And then there was the Regional Planning Committee established. This is the West Texas El Paso Regional Transportation Coordinating Committee. This was established in 2006 through funding from TxDOT. And it included, the county was very much involved in being one of the co-sponsors, as well as Project Amistad. Project Amistad is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and it had the contract to provide the transportation for the county of El Paso. So the routes that are being provided in the county had been, through an RFP, a request for proposal process. Amistad was granted the contract and was providing the transportation services. I happen to have been executive director of Amistad for about 16 years until about 4 years ago. When I joined Amistad in 2004, the Amistad had been operating the county transit system for about 10 years by that time. And then, can we go to the next slide? And then from 2015 to now, 2024, these are some of the things that have been happening. Of course, the first thing is the creation of the Regional Transit Institutional Feasibility Study that was done in 2018-17. This is the report that came out. It's dated July 2018. So this was another study that was done through the county, again, utilizing consultants, and participating with them were all the various municipalities, the city of El Paso, and all the various communities within El Paso participated by hosting sessions, public meetings, forums. From this, a number of the recommendations that had been made in 1990 began to be implemented a lot more. Again, there was a creation of the LGC, which is now ETA. Ourselves, continued expansion of the fixed routes in the county. The fleet was converted to CNG for efficiency, for greater reduction of pollution. Paratransit services was introduced in August of 2024. And right now there's a study underway to see about implementing general public demand response transportation services in 2026. This is kind of like, I don't want to use the word Uber, but it's similar concept in that individuals can call and be transported within certain geographic areas and certainly not pay the same amount as you would with Uber. Bus shelters, there's more bus shelters being increased, the quantity being increased throughout the county. And right now we have a pilot project where we're getting about 7 electric vehicles that will be used within the county. We're going to be receiving those at the end of this year, at least that's the target. And then the most important one of the most important ones is the transit facility that is being planned to be built in 2026, 2027. The property is in the final phases of being purchased. It's located in the area around Pebble Hills and the Loop, right by the city of El Paso and the county of El Paso, in that general area. But we're in the final negotiations of the purchase of that property. In fact, CRRMA is involved in some aspects of that. Next slide, please. This is just a quick overview of the ridership during a 12-month period. You can see that Route 10, Anthony Canutillo, had the greatest ridership during this particular year, followed, of course, by Horizon City with the growth that it has experienced over the years. Two of these routes are in, well, actually just one for the most part. Route 10 is in the Upper Valley. All the others either go east or in southeast parts of the county, one extending all the way to Fabens. You can see also the Gold Route. This is the one that I mentioned, is the fast travel from leaves the modal transfer system in West El Paso and goes to Las Cruces. Had 33,000 plus riders during the 12-month period. So again, these are individuals that commute back and forth. Some of them are students coming to UTEP or going to New Mexico State. And then you also see the county van pool program. The county van pool program, apparently we left it off. The van pool program has been very robust also, and continues to be. We have about 140 vans operating on any given day within the county, taking individuals to and from work. So 4 or 5 individuals live in the same area. They communicate with the van pool program. A van is available through Enterprise, and the individuals then use that van to go to and from work. They can also travel outside the county. For example, some of them go up to the Alamogordo area if they're working with the prison system that's out there, or Border Patrol, for example, Sierra Blanca, in the Lordsburg area. So some of them that work in those areas can carpool, reduces number of vehicles, and also reduces emission in the as far as pollution. Next slide, please. And very quickly, the next 4 or 5 slides gives you an overview of the routes. This is Anthony Canutillo. You can see, of course, the times, the routes, the stops, and the map. You can go to the next one. And then this is Route 20, which is in the Montana Vista area, from the Cielo Vista Park area up to, that's where the transfer occur, where individuals can transfer from the county to the city, and then ride on this particular bus up to the Montana Vista area. Next slide. Horizon City, more robust also. This is from the Lower Valley Mission Transfer Center. And then the next one, you see 31. This was an offshoot of Horizon City, because Horizon City grew so much that we added this one a few years ago to reach out into that new community. The next one is Route 40, as I recall, Fabens, Tornillo. It's a long drive to Fabens, but we provide the transportation. It brings them again up to the transfer center in the Isleta area. Next slide. This is Mission Trails, similar area. And so you can just kind of get an idea of the complexity of, similar to Sun Metro. Of course, theirs is a more robust program because they cover the whole city of El Paso. Next slide. This is another one, and then the next one. So this is the new program, the paratransit services. Paratransit services is provided to persons who is unable to use a fixed route bus, and because of a disability, the individual uses a wheelchair for mobility. And so we have just acquired 7 ADA certified vehicles. They have a lift, pretty much like the ones you see for the lift for San Metro. Amistad also uses those type of buses also to transport individuals to their medical appointments. The fare is $2.50 one way, and it's curb to curb. So we would pick them up at their curb and drop them off at the curb of wherever they're going. The person has to live within a 3/4 mile of a fixed route. So wherever the route is going, 3/4 mile either way, the individual must live within that area or be picked up within that area, and then it's transported to wherever. It's a shared ride program where there might be 2 or 3 individuals per vehicle instead of just 1 person per vehicle. And again, transportation is within a certain service area. They meet ADA, and the riders, the individuals, of course, have to be certified. They go through an application process, just like the lift with the city of El Paso, to ensure that the individual is a person that requires paratransit services. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things that is out there is a number of bus shelters. Some of them are just a sign, some are just a sign and a bench, and some are a little bit more robust. We're increasing the number of bus shelters. Next slide. These are 2 of the very common ones that we see, just a bench and a sign, but it requires just getting them in place. There has to be a process to establish them. We have to get approval. Tech studies involved because in some places we place them in highways or in areas that are coordinated or managed by TxDOT. Next slide. This is the bus shelter, the more robust shelter. It has a light, of course, for security at night. It has signage. It has a little bit more amenities than just a bench. Next slide. And you can see the category 1, which is the more robust one. We're adding 22 of those. We're adding 34, and we're adding 52 of the category 3 signs. And this is in addition to what's already out there. Next slide. We have an advisory committee made up of individuals who have a profession or an interest in providing services to paratransit ridership. They either work for an agency that specializes in providing services like that, like a social service agency. In some instances, the Access Advisory Committee are individuals who have a family member who needs paratransit services, and so there's an interest in them to ensure that we're staying within the expectations of meeting the needs of persons with a disability. This Access Advisory Committee that also serves as a sounding board for us to ensure that we're meeting, again, those needs. Next slide. And of course, like any entity, we have our challenges. The paratransit services just started in August. Right now, we have about 40 individuals that we're transporting. We anticipate that that's going to increase as word of mouth and as publicity occurs. We're announcing this service through the various social service agencies that provide services to individuals with disabilities. And so as they become familiar with the services that we're providing, we anticipate that the number of ridership is going to increase. Socorro reduction, and the city of Socorro has chosen not to participate in the ETA with the El Paso Transportation Authority. And so by not participating, that means that the authority is not going to be providing transportation services in the city of Socorro. Right now, through June of 2025, we are providing it. But after June of 2025, we will not be stopping in Socorro. We'll simply be going through Socorro, but not making any stops there because, again, City Council from Socorro has decided not to participate in this program. They're working on doing their own transportation, again, which is fine. It's very costly, but that's a decision that they have made. But that has made implications for the rest of the routes because by not stopping in Socorro, that affects the bus stops in the other locations. And so we've been going through a change in the stoppage times in the other communities. Of course, revenue and expenses projections is always a challenge, making sure that we're projecting the expenses and the revenues correctly. Coordination of assets with the El Paso County and ETA. The county is sort of is the entity that created ETA and is providing a lot of the funding for ETA. The continued coordination between those two entities is important. And of course, compliance with the contract, with the various contracts that we have to meet. The new transit facility in East El Paso is going to be important, but it's also, a challenge going through that whole purchasing of the property and the infrastructure of the permits from the appropriate entities that are involved. And then, of course, right now, the El Paso Transit Authority only has 2 staff persons that are actively providing the technical support, the technical work. Besides the director position, my position, there's only 2 staff persons. So that, I realize that's hard to grasp when all the projects that they're doing is being done primarily by 2 persons. Next slide, please. The Council of Governments, I mentioned them earlier, is the fiscal agent. They receive the contributions from the member entities because each of the member communities provide a certain amount of dollars to ETA. And so the COG is the entity that receives those funds, keep it separately, and then provide financial reports on the revenue, the expenses that we're doing. They maintain the financial records, they maintain the website that just is going live actually this week. And so they're coordinating with Barracuda Public Relations firm to develop the website and also to promote the fact that ETA is in existence now. They're responsible for working with ETA until ETA was created. The Council of Governments worked to have the board meetings, the agendas, the documents, the minutes, everything that is required, such as what you all do, because it's the same type of entity. And so the role of the Rio Grande Girls Council has been very, very active in giving us the infrastructure until now the ETA is in place. Next slide, please. This is the contribution amounts. I realize it's a little far to look all the amounts, but you can see what the communities are providing. The local contribution, the middle column, is what those entities are providing to ETA to operate the system within their communities. And you can see, of course, Horizon City, for example, at $114,000 is, I think it's the highest amount that they're contributing, as opposed to, say, the village of Vinton with $20,000. Last night I was at Horizon City, made a presentation to them because all of these communities have to go through a interlocal agreement with ETA, and City Council Horizon approved their participation with this amount. The city of San Elizario did the same thing. I was there about 3 weeks ago, and they approved the interlocal agreement that had been prepared by us through our county attorney's office and submitted to them. We'll be making the other presentations to the other communities. The fact that each of those communities has a member of the board on the ETA helps us because they are our link with the city council from the 5 entities. And so this is what they're contributing. The County of El Paso, of course, providing the largest amount of support for implementing this program. Next slide. And some of the highlights within 2024 from the Rio Grande Council of Governments is, of course, they facilitated the process where more entities joined the ETA. The last ones were the town of Clint and the town of Anthony. They've also facilitated the coordination of the board meetings, supported excess advisory committee members in the meetings, developing their bylaws, as well as providing the logistical support in the board of directors meeting and all the documentation and records. And I'm sure that Mr. Tejas can relate to the requirements of maintaining all the infrastructure for a formal board such as yours, which is the same as the El Paso Transportation Authority. Next slide, please. So finally, the summary of the current projects. Again, mentioned the fixed route expansions, the demand response expansions, the bus shelter program that's in place, the electric vehicles that are supposed to come in at the end of 2026, early 2027. Right now, there's a request for proposal that is out to cover the next 5 years in providing and managing the fixed route transit program within the County of El Paso. That should be awarded in the next 5 to 6 weeks. The van pool program and the gold program continue to operate, and those have been very successful, so they continue to grow. As I mentioned, the van pool program, there's about 140 vans out there, and it's hard to fathom the fact that this is happening out there. You need at least 3 to 4 persons to have a van, assigned, but these individuals, it saves on their gasoline, it saves on their wear and tear of their vehicle, and so it's a very robust program. The County of El Paso has been awarded a total of $18 million in grants to operate all these various programs. And these are grants money that's coming into El Paso County. And so there is also an additional $5 million that are sort of in the final phase of being awarded. They've gone through the whole process that's involved. We're waiting just for the last pieces of approval. And so that figure will increase to about $25 million. And as I mentioned, next slide, please. There's only 2 persons on the staff right now. There used to be 3, but one of them left us about 6 months ago, and I think is working now with one of the companies here in El Paso. But the 2 individuals in the middle, that's Reina Mayorga, and on the left of her is Jesus Serna. They're the 2 staff persons. They've been with the county about 7 or 8 years. I joined, of course, as the interim director. My term is through the next 2 months, thereabouts. Next week, we're in the final phase of interviews for the director position. I was asked to come in and support the process as we moved into filling the position of the director, and also moving to implementing the ETA, meeting all the legal requirements that are involved. As I said, there's a lot of infrastructure work that needs to happen in an entity like that, being created from scratch, and I'm sure that Mr. Tellez can relate to that as well. And of course, you see Annette Gutierrez. She is the executive director of the Council of Governments, and her role has been, in essence, similar to Mr. Tellez's role in coordinating the meetings. I assume that eventually will transition into the ETA. Legal services has been provided to date by Kem Smith, Sergio Esparza, has been the attorney representing us, attending the meetings and providing legal support. That's going to transition into the county attorney's office early in 2025. So as you can see, this has been evolving over the last 30 years with the various studies, the various growths. The last major work that was done is this one right here, and this is the regional plan for 2022 to 2026. This is done through a funding from TxDOT to establish a regional transportation coordinating committee. There are about 24 of these committees statewide, and here in El Paso, the County of El Paso plus the 5 counties east of El Paso, Hudspeth, Culberson, Brewster, Jeff Davis, and Presidio, those 5 counties, and El Paso are the members of the West Texas Regional Transportation Coordinating Committee. I'm on the board of this, actually. I'm the chairperson of the board of directors of the Regional Planning Committee, and so I've been involved with WETEP, with this regional committee since 2006 when it was created, because it was actually Amistad when I was the director there, the County of El Paso, and the Area Agency on Aging. Those were the 3 entities that came together to establish the Regional Transportation Coordinating Committee. And so in my role as the current chair, I work with the city transportation programs, county transportation programs, and also social service programs. So we're trying to have a system whereby there's greater communication between social service agencies and transportation agencies. Because moving people is not just moving them from point A to point B, it's what happens afterwards. And this is where the social services come in, and they're an important component in meeting the transit needs of our riders. I'm free to answer any questions.
So I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you for joining us today and sharing all of that with us. I think it's particularly important for this group because we do contract with the county to support your all services. And this gives you some level of background in terms of who we're providing those services to when we do the bus shelter contracts, when we do the transit facility design and ultimately acquisition and eventually the actual construction of that transit facility. This is the group that we're working with. So thank you, Mr. Bananas.
And we have periodic meetings with the RMA to make sure that we're on target, that we're communicating. If there's any issues that come up, we work to solve them so that we can stay on top of all the programs. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I got a question on the absence of Socorro as part of this thing.
Yes.
Almost looks like the absence of a linchpin that kind of holds the whole piece together because it's smack dab in the middle.
Correct.
So
And it has had an impact on our scheduling, for example, because say Socorro is right here, Horizon City is here, and then San Elizario and Clint are like right here. And so Socorro, and they're the next largest community within El Paso County. They're right there. Right now, we drive on Horizons Boulevard and make several stops there, but we're not going to be making stops there after July 1st. We'll bypass it. We think that there's going to be enough public support from the persons in Socorro to convince their city council to change their, their vote and vote to join the ETA, because otherwise they'll have to develop their own system or not have any transportation system within the city of Socorro at all.
I have a question. And as far
This
as
is Leah.
As far as Socorro is concerned, you said right now they're not involved in it. What if they change their minds? What if the citizens convinced city council to change their mind on their vote? How long will it be before you reinstate that service for them?
Well, right now we're not ceasing services until July 1st.
Right.
So if they change their mind between now and 2, 3, 4, 5 months, it shouldn't affect anything because we would just reinstate the stops and the routes that we've been operating for years and years and years. If they wait into, say, April or May, it might affect it a little bit, but we will certainly expedite the process to ensure that we have minimal disruption of services in the Socorro area.
Okay, thank you.
you had a question, Leah?
I was going to ask that very same question but thank you. Yes, that's what I was going to ask.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay,
Oh, wait a
any-
minute, I have another question. You said that you'll be in this position for the next 2 months?
2 months approximately.
And have they already hired a person to be the director?
Next
or-
Friday, we have scheduled final interviews. The position was announced about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. We had 42 applications from within El Paso County, outside El Paso County. It was reduced to about 30, and then it was further reduced to about 8 or 9, and it's been further reduced to about 4, and we'll be interviewing those 4 individuals next Wednesday. I'm on the selection committee myself, since I've been on the, working as the interim director, so that's scheduled for Wednesday. We think, well, because of the holiday season, if it's somebody from out of the city of El Paso, there's relocation that has to be taken into account. So it might be another 2 to 3 months before the individual, starts with us, if it's somebody outside the county. If it's somebody inside the county, that would be reduced. And so my role is to stay on through maybe a month and a half after the person is elected, and then transition out.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you all very much. Okay, moving right along, and speaking on that subject here, the ETA, I don't see any major impact on what we do or how we do it as far as our support for the county and all of the things going on. Matter of fact, it might even streamline it a little bit as far as points of contact and that kind of thing. So,
I think that's right. We haven't seen any change so far. We're still contracting directly with the county, and then those services are being provided through the county to the Transportation Authority.
okay. All right, next item number 4, discussion action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with respect to Transportation Reinvestment Zone number 3, yay, with the city of El Paso as it relates to the Borderland Expressway project. Raymond.
Okay, well, I've got a graphic here to show you that'll help orient you. This deals specifically, as you read into the record, with the Borderland Expressway project, which is a project being developed by TxDOT. As you may recall, and we've talked about transportation reinvestment zones with the city of El Paso for quite some time. They've implemented number 2 and number 3. This deals specifically with number 3. Number 3 originally was created to support a project known as the Northeast Main Lanes project, and that was the expansion of 375 up in the Northeast right around US 54. And so what we did on that one was we used the City of El Paso's Transportation Reinvestment Zone, which was, the revenues were assigned to the RMA. We went out and issued a State Infrastructure Bank loan in about totaling about $6 million. Those funds were then used for aesthetic improvements along this corridor, and that's that snakeskin pattern that you see out there. TxDOT liked that so much, they actually used that snakeskin pattern on the west side of 375 as well, as it connects to 10. So that was the initial project that we developed through the use of Transportation Reinvestment Zone number 3. Those funds, as you'll recall, were paid down, so the State Infrastructure Bank loan is complete. However, there was always the intention that when the TRZ number 3 was created, that it would also be used to support what was then known as the Northeast Parkway. It's now known as Borderland Expressway. So what you see before you today is an agreement between the RMA and the City of El Paso, which expressly allows the RMA to use the TRZ number 3 revenues for support of the Borderland Expressway project. So that's what you see as part of your backup. Now, the project itself, I wanted to show you that, and that's what you see on your screen. The project, as I mentioned, is being developed by TxDOT, so they are designing the project and they are managing construction as of right now. The current concept for this project is that TxDOT has broken it into 3 different phases. So that first phase, as you see right there with the cursor, it's the blue lines. Those are essentially frontage roads from railroad to Dyer. And those are being constructed right now. That one is roughly about $18 million worth of construction activity, and that's happening now. Phase 2 then is the green that you see there being highlighted by the cursor, and that essentially goes from railroad, and those are the main lanes. Those go from railroad all the way out to Martin Luther King in green. That is anticipated to be about a $150 million project, and I believe that is fully funded through the MPO, if I remember correctly. Then phase 3 of the project is that remainder there, I suppose that's magenta, and that's basically running from Dyer down to connect to 375. And so ultimately, that's the point of this project, is to provide that relief from 375 all the way up to MLK, which then connects in New Mexico to 213 and 404, and eventually then connects back to I-10. So the vision of this project then is somebody, for example, a trucker who's not intending to stay in El Paso, or, for example, while downtown I-10 is being reconstructed, through traffic can take I-10 from the east in El Paso up 375, take Borderland Expressway, cut through New Mexico, and then rejoin 10 in New Mexico at the Anthony Pass, which is New Mexico 404. So that's really one of the main goals of this project, in addition to improvements in the areas of phase 1 and phase 3. Anyhow, that's the project. I wanted to lay that out for you. But ultimately, I am recommending approval of this item. We've spoken with city staff. I've met with the interim city manager a few times, and eventually the current city manager. We've met with her to discuss this, and they are supportive of it, and I believe they are now talking to city council. We intend, upon passage today, we'll provide the signed agreement to the city, and they will take that to their council meeting, I believe, next week, before the end of the year. So this is another big step. Once this agreement is executed, we can sit down, we will sit down with TxDOT and the city and work through what makes the most sense in terms of how much in funding to pursue through the State Infrastructure Bank and where those funds would be utilized, whether it's replacing funds in the existing phase 2 program or shelving it and waiting for phase 3 to come online. So lots of questions still to come, but ultimately this is a huge step forward for the project, and it shows that all-important local skin in the game. Happy to answer any questions, but again, I do recommend approval.
Yeah, for our personal side, we've been working on this, been part of an effort to get this done now for 7, 8 years almost. And so that's a big step. It's a big step. This goes a long ways to being, when we start looking at the state for allocation of funds and all that kind of stuff, this is a big issue when it comes to the local skin in the game, to show that we are doing our effort to secure funding for this very important project. So that's a very, very big step. So nice to hear. Any comments from anybody? Okay. No action required?
Actually, yes, an action. We're requesting approval of a board resolution that would authorize the execution of this agreement.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Leah.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 5, discussion and action on board resolution authorizing the execution of advanced funding agreements with Texas Department of Transportation for the following construction projects: Rodman Street Shared Use Path, and B, John Hayes Street Extension Phase 2.
Okay, I've got another graphic for you on each of these, just a map to orient you to what we're talking about. The Rodman, and actually let me take a step back. So as you know, whenever we utilize federal funding for the development of a project, we have to execute an advanced funding agreement with TxDOT. And so those are the agreements that you see as backup for items 5A and B. It's the advanced funding agreements. So we'll wait for that graphic to come up. There we go. Okay, next page, Robert. So the first one that we're talking about is Rodman. This is a shared use path that's being developed for the town of Horizon City. We've partnered with them. We are currently doing the design for them, and ultimately we will do the construction. This advanced funding agreement is for construction dollars, and it's in the general range of about $260,000. So what we're doing here is we're connecting an existing trail that's found there on Horizon Boulevard, and the trail will run up that red line that you see there on Rodman, and ultimately will connect to the park that's found there. I'd mention also to the, I suppose that's to the left of the red line, that's part of the transit-oriented development that the town of Horizon City is currently developing, and we're supporting them in those activities. That's where we've recently talked about placing a bus transit facility, a transit center, and some other transit-related improvements in the area that we're working on for them. So anyhow, this ties in nicely to what they're trying to do in that area, and so that's Rodman. And then Robert, if you'll scroll to the next one, it's John Hayes, and you'll remember this one. We are currently under construction for John Hayes, Phase 1. We're building out a roadway, as you see there in red, for El Paso County. Phase 2 then is to widen it. In the majority of the area, we're widening from 1 lane to 3 lanes in each direction, and adding, we're also adding, I believe we're adding sidewalks, bike lanes on this particular stretch as well. So again, this is in development on behalf of El Paso County. This one we're thinking should be in the range of about $22 million. So that's the advanced funding agreement that you see as item 5B. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of both of these items.
I do have a question. Yeah. Whenever you do these paths, do you also do the landscaping, like putting up the trees or stuff along the paths? Are we responsible for that?
We normally do. There is usually a landscape package that's incorporated into these shared use paths. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am. Ultimately, they are, those questions are always questions of funding, and if funding is available, then we normally include them.
And then once we do it, finish it, then the city takes over in maintaining it? Is that what happens?
In this case, yes, that's what will happen with the town of Horizon City. In other cases, for example, we've developed roadways and shared use paths in unincorporated portions of the county for El Paso County, and in those instances, the municipal utility districts have taken over the landscaping requirements. So it kind of depends on where we're placing the improvements, but in no versions is the RMA retaining the landscaping maintenance. We transfer that
Okay.
to some other entity.
Okay.
I got one question here, and there's been some negative press and stuff going on with all the construction going on at Horizon Boulevard, Darrington, and all those areas that we've been involved in. And my question is, there's nothing that we're involved in there that is going through any abnormal type of delays? Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. The only project we have that has an abnormal delay, of course, is Pelicano. That's it.
Okay. I thought the mayor of Horizon handled that very well in the press, by the way. Okay, all right. So we need a motion, taking both A and B at the same time. So I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Smith, if I could interrupt you, number 6, we actually received some revisions that were requested by the Commissioners Court that were just passed Monday afternoon. So we're going to need some time on that one. So if you wouldn't mind, I would ask for a motion to delete item number 6, and I'll bring it back once we've gone through those revisions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to delete item number 6.
I make that motion.
Have a motion,
I'll-
second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 7. Discussion and action on a board resolution adopting an updated policy statement and updated assurances, as well as identifying a coordinator for the CRRMA's Title VI program.
Good morning, Robert Studer, Director of Finance. For the record, so a little bit of background on Title VI, if you're not familiar with it. Agencies that receive federal funding, like you just approved on item 5, those were 2 AFAs with TxDOT where we'll receive federal funding. We are required to comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What does the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 do? It prohibits discrimination across a variety of factors, but that's basically what it does, is it prohibits discrimination, and if we want to receive federal funds, we must comply with it. Compliance includes a multitude of things, but the 2 straightforward ones are this policy statement and assurance that we say we're not going to discriminate, and then we're going to include some things in bidding language. If we acquire right away, we're going to have some certain assurances that go along with that. We're supposed to update this every 3 years. It's been a while since we've done that, so we are bringing it forward to you today to, 1, approve or authorize the executive director to approve both of those or execute both of those documents. And then also name me as the coordinator for Title VI going forward, and then I will, over the next year or so, be bringing back additional items for your approval, including a revised plan, as we need to remain in compliance. One of the reasons this is happening is FHWA delegates its oversight to TxDOT, and TxDOT is working and partnering and working with us, and I had a great call with one of their staff members in this section and gave us some pointers on, hey, here's some quick things that you need to do to remain in compliance, and so we're doing that. The county, the city, Horizon, MPO, all of them have Title VI programs like we have, and so we're going to be updating ours over the next year or so. This is the first step. And so with that, I would recommend approval of the resolution.
my question is this hopefully is something more than just a paper drill?
Yes, so we have a whole entire program. It requires us to do, we have to look and see, do we have changes in our population? And therefore, do we need to include translation services for languages other than Spanish and English? And so that's part of it. And so we're going to bring that whole program back to you. We do have a program now, but we are required to update it. It's one of the things that TxDOT is doing is they are sending out surveys to all the entities that receive federal funding. You get a green, yellow, or a red. Depending on if you're green, they come back to you in 3 years. If you get a yellow, hey, look, here's a couple changes. Red, we need to take immediate action. They're doing this for Title VI and ADA. I believe we got green in both instances, so we've got time before they come back to us to make sure that we're in compliance again. But we need to be taking good action in this direction.
And what is the oversight echelons above us that ensure that this is all being done right?
TxDOT.
Okay.
So FHWA has delegated that authority to TxDOT, and TxDOT's working with MPOs, counties, cities, RMAs, all of the above.
Okay.
We're all required to respond to those surveys and provide links to our documents, that sort of thing, so that they can review them.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, action required?
All we're doing is adopting that you're overseeing this. That's what we're doing.
That
correct?
and authorizing the executive director to sign updated assurances. So we used to use our own that we had drafted. TxDOT wants to make it as simple as possible for organizations, so they actually have templates. We're just going to go forward with their templates instead of having
Okay.
our own versions.
And
Okay.
those templates are included as part of the backup as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Leah.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, discussion and action on a motion to authorize the executive director to make budget transfers and take other actions as necessary for updating the CRRMA website.
Again, Robert Studer, we've had several strategic planning sessions over the years. Most recently, we heard loud and clear the need for updating some of our marketing activities, and you'll see other agenda items, and I'll discuss further efforts with you. But this is one of them. Our website, we heard you loud and clear. Our website is almost a decade old, if not older, and so it works well. We heard you loud and clear. It's time for an update, a refresh. We did not include this in the adopted budget, though, so we need budget authority from you all to increase the budget to be able to pay for this. So that's the action before you today, and I'll recommend or read a motion requesting that. But this authorizes the executive director to make budget transfers through me so that we have the funding to do it, and then also to go forward, sign the contract, and complete the redesign of our webpage. So with that, I request a motion to authorize the executive director to make budget transfers and take other actions as necessary for updating of the CRRMA website.
In the amount of?
So it's just under $20,000. It's $19,980.
Okay.
And we got I believe, a 10% discount on that fee.
Only a 10% discount?
The stamp.
Okay. All right. So our website, I think, is very, very important because that's the statement of who we are and what we do. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion. This is Leah.
I'll second it. I am so glad this is happening.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sissy, would you like to make a request that the
Nope. We got the action we needed. Thank you.
Y'all already know. I don't have to tell you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm on it. I'll take care of it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so next, staff reports. Fiscal year 2024 annual audit. B is the quarterly newsletter update, and C is the annual budget project report. So,
So for item A, when we had our entrance meeting with the audit firm after you all approved the engagement letter back in August, they warned us that they have quite a few prior engagements, and so that we might get started a little late. That did in fact happen, and we were later to begin than we have been the last few years. We have been making good progress since we got started. We do plan on being ready to bring it forward to the board for approval in January. We would, of course, take it to the Finance Committee prior to the full board so the Finance Committee can review it in more depth. We've previously discussed, I think at the last board meeting, the need for a couple other reasons as well, that we might have a different date of our January meeting that would help us most likely, and so we'll coordinate that with the board as we figure out a date that works. But as of right now, we're on track to be ready in January. For item B, again, coming out of the board's discussion regarding marketing, we are continuing with the quarterly newsletter. We are partnering with Barracuda on that. Barracuda has assigned a new staff member to that, so it's going to have a little bit different flavor. But that will go out after this meeting, and hopefully you'll continue to get that and be happy with that. But please provide us any feedback as you receive that. If you want to see something particular in there or a section beefed up, please let us know. But that will be going out today after this meeting. And then item C.
so that is a draft that comes to us for information or what?
No, it'll be the version that's going out to the public you will receive at the same time. So you'll just be getting the same newsletter that goes out to everyone that has signed up for it, that's on our list for distribution.
And who reviews it before it goes out?
This is, just as a reminder, this is the quarterly newsletter that we've been doing for quite some time. So we have Barracuda. I work with Barracuda on the content of it. They develop the text, the proposed language, and then I'll often tweak it, and we'll work together on it, and then we issue it. Really, the whole point of these three items is just to keep you updated, like, you know, that we're still doing these, and that as part of the strategic planning session, we recognize that you all want that marketing presence, so that's what we're doing with this, just keeping you posted.
And its effectiveness is how, measured in how? What way?
Well, I think the fact that our email list has increased, I think that could be one metric, but we don't use metrics for it. We were asked to put out a quarterly newsletter and keep folks apprised as to what we're up to, so it's a one-way outreach. And so to go back and...
With no feedback mechanism?
Well, there's always feedback. Sure, you can respond to it, and it links back to our website, which has like an inquiry button where you can submit questions to the RMA, and it comes to our inbox. So there's always a way to get back to us. But in terms of some sort of an automatic metric, there's not. The intention, as you may recall, the board wanted to send this information out to the folks that we do work with. So it's
Right.
going to Town of Horizon City, San Elizario, Clint, all of the entities that we partner with, and of course all of the elected officials and that sort of thing. So that's really the primary intended recipient. But then of course, as engineering companies, construction companies sign up, it's grown.
But we have no way of knowing whether or not anybody ever reads it. Is that correct?
No, we have that ability as well. So we use MailChimp, which is the entity that sends out primarily newsletters, and we can pull down data in terms of how many people opened it and that sort of thing if you're interested.
Okay. And is it working? Is the outreach, is the feedback we're getting, is it, the effort is good, or do we have to modify what we do or how we do it?
Well, the intent behind the direction from the board is being met, and that is to get information on our projects and what we are doing and who we're doing it for. It's getting out there. So I would say the answer is yes.
Okay. All right, is there,
See.
C, item C, annual project report,
So you may recall that to go back to what Raymond said, the board's request for marketing and information being out there. Last year, we partnered with Barracuda and brought to you a annual report, had the really cool maps that had the projects on them
Yeah.
and went through that. So we plan to bring that back to you, a revised version for 2024 at the January meeting as well. And then we'll put it on our website, and it'll be sent out as part of the newsletter at the next quarter.
All right,
No action on any of those items.
okay. Any other questions from anybody? Okay. Item number 10, discussion and action of board resolution authorizing the execution and submittal of documentation of eminent domain authority to the Texas Comptroller as required.
Okay, included in your backup is a resolution that authorizes the submission of that document, the eminent domain requirement. This is required by the state each year. The state maintains a log of those entities that have eminent domain authority, and that's what we're doing here. So this is something we do every year, and I'd recommend approval.
Question, have we ever used eminent domain in anything we've done?
We have not.
Okay. Any questions?
So
Motion
this
to-
document that we have the authority to use eminent domain if we need to. That's all it's saying.
That's correct. So what we do is we certify that we have the ability, and then we identify the statutes that provide us that authority. And that's what the comptroller is looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. All right. Item number 11, presentation discussion on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for John Hayes Street Extension Phase 1 and Fabian Sidewalk projects.
Okay, I've got a very brief presentation for you on this one, so I'll ask IT to bring that up. While we get there, as a reminder, this is the change order authority that was granted by the board to the RMA. Use that for a couple of change orders that were signed over the past month, and I'll walk you through those. All right. Go ahead. So the first one is Fabian Sidewalks. This is a project that we're developing on behalf of El Paso County. Go to the next slide, please. This is the cleanup change order. So as a reminder, as we wrap up construction activities on a particular project, we do what's called a cleanup change order, and that's where we look back at the quantities utilized. So we anticipate X quantity of Y materials all throughout the project. So we need to do an accounting for that, and that's what we're doing here with this cleanup. This is a unique cleanup because it's a $0 change order. But any change orders we bring back and alert you to. So this effectively is helping to allow us to wrap up this project. It's a $0 change order, and it was executed by me previously. So that's it for this project. The next one is John Hayes. We talked about this one. This is the one that's under construction, working on behalf of El Paso County. Next slide. This is the third change order. This required some additional line blasting and coating for a petroleum line that's out there. So additional $12,000. As with all change orders that we develop on behalf of El Paso County, they review the proposal, they approve it in writing before we execute any change orders, and that happened in this case. So that was approved, and I have executed this change order as well. This one was for $12,000, so it's under the authority granted by the board, so no action is required for either of these items, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any comments? Okay, going on, the item number 12, quarterly presentation, update and discussion on the following programs or projects. A, Borderland Expressway project, and B, the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan.
All right, this one will be quick. Borderland Expressway, we touched on that one earlier, so nothing else to report on that one. And for item 12B, we've included as part of your backup the quarterly report that we provide for all of the CMP projects. So that's available to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, no action is required on this one either.
All right. Any questions? Okay, going on item 13, status update on Pelicano Drive widening project and discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing execution of amendment to work authorization number 27.8 with Atkins USA Inc.
Okay, so for this one, brief update for the benefit of the public. As you may recall, I was absent in the last, or I wasn't here present for the last board meeting because we were in trial for Pelicano. That trial wrapped up on that day, which I believe was November 13th, with no ruling from the judge. In fact, the judge postponed closing arguments, and those were held on December 5th. So those closing arguments happened, I want to say it was last week, and that part of this process is now complete. We are awaiting ruling from the judge. So that's where we are on that for the benefit of the public. And then, so I do want to talk about the work authorization that's included in item 13. So as you know, when we issued the default against the contractor, that required us to step into the shoes of the contractor for purposes of managing the traffic control. So the cones, the barriers, all of those the signage and all of that sort of thing that's required to keep the public safe in that construction site is being maintained by the RMA. We do that through our general engineering consultant team, Atkins in this case. They've engaged the traffic control provider. And unfortunately, because this process is continuing, we have to extend those services a bit longer. So what you see as an amendment to work authorization number 27.8 is an extension of those traffic control services. We've added 6 months. We don't think it'll take that long, but we've added that out of an abundance of caution. Now, if we don't need the 6 months, we will not make these expenditures in that total amount. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend approval of this item as well.
Okay, any questions? Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Leah.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, one other related item. Normally, I would ask you to go into executive session. However, since we have a just barely met quorum, we're missing some board members, and also our attorney is in a deposition right now. I thought we'd be out earlier. I'd ask the board if it would be okay if I could provide you with a written update through our attorneys, through attorney-client privilege, as opposed to moving into executive session, if that's okay.
Do you need a motion for that?
We don't. I just wanted to let you know I'd prefer in this instance to provide a written update. As opposed.
Any objections from any board member?
No.
Not for me, no.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I don't have anything else for you on this agenda.
Okay, so I'm sitting here and counting on my fingers and toes, and I'm out of agenda items. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second it.
I get this echo of these same voices that come in my ears. So. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Anybody who wants to keep this going, say nay. Okay, motion carries. The meeting is adjourned as
Thank you.
of 10:22.